I have a mental disorder called gender dysphoria, and I
Well, I
play with
see
it.
the only fact that you say that, I'm sure is considered transphobic by the so-called trans community because
They started calling me transphobic, and then they started calling me old, and then they started telling me to sit down and shut up, Tramp. We got it from here. I'm like, wait a minute, no.
what do you think about those parents or TV shows or books that suggest that we've been assigned a gender and that we should let the people, like, let the kids decide? What do you think about that?
Well, it's gross. It's propaganda. It's ideology. It's nonsense. There are such things as boys and girls. Stop it. We were not assigned anything. We are male and female. I don't like any of that language. That language is ideological and cult like. And it's a
Right.
lie. It's an actual blatant lie. That's right.
What is going on with this phenomenon of drag queens?
I
This
don't
is where I'm
know.
talking about propaganda. I think that's what we're witnessing right now. And I've been
That's right.
very vocal here in Quebec about it.
Thank you.
And I've been called names, of
Of
course.
course.
And I try to be, smart and pragmatic about
Yeah.
it, not
Yeah.
get emotional because this is
Yeah.
where nobody really listens to each other. But I honestly don't know why we have to aim children. Can we just let the kids alone?
Thank you.
What is
As
going on with
I'm a
that?
transsexual and I'm telling you, leave the kids alone.
Yeah.
And guess what? I'll tell you what, as a 60-year-old tranny, truth wins. It always wins. It always will.
Buck Angel is a biological female who identifies as a male. He is very much against gender identity ideology, and that's precisely what we discussed together. Okay, we're on. Hi, Buck.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very good, and you?
I'm great, thanks.
We'll have so much to discuss today, and I will let you introduce yourself. Most people who are following me probably don't know who you are. You are based in LA, so tell me who are you, Buck?
So, who
That's a
am I? I
big
don't even
question.
I'm like, "So who am I?"
That's a
So
very big
that
question.
it is a big question these days.
Yeah.
So, my name is Buck Angel. I am a biological female who transitioned to live my life as a male. I'm 60 years old. I transitioned 30 years ago. I'm an am I'm advocate. I wouldn't say I'm an activist anymore because that word has been hijacked. So
Right.
I'm a human rights advocate, and I believe in rights for everyone. And so today I'm here to speak to you. I think possibly about the trans movement, and
Yeah.
I'm not part of that movement. So I sort of sit outside as an elder in the community.
Right. So 30 years as a trans, so you
Yeah.
do know what you're talking about. And I'm sure once you first transition, it was still uncommon, right?
Very. On some level, I was one of the first to do that here in Los Angeles, and I was it was so new, and it wasn't even done with women becoming men. It was more popular for men becoming women. It's always been more sort of seen, but my
True.
doctor called me a guinea pig because on some level, an experiment because he had no clue. I was his first patient. He had been in
Wow.
trans medicine for over 30, 40 years, and he had never worked with a person like me. So, yeah.
Wow. Were
Mhm.
you worried?
Yeah, of course. I mean, here's the deal. When you really have gender dysphoria and you really try as many ways, and I did, I tried many ways to live with that dysphoria without sort of transitioning. And I didn't know that I could do this, to be honest. I didn't have the internet, right? I
Right.
didn't have
Right.
any of what you see today. I was going through my own diagnosis of gender dysphoria and trying to find for a lack of a better, a cure to not feel disassociated in the world. And
Mhm.
then I found that I could change my sex, which is what we called it. Clearly, I didn't change my sex. I just changed my appearance.
Mhm.
But we used to call it a sex change. So of course, I didn't have photographs. I didn't have anything to compare, myself as a female to what that meant to become a man. It was just really flying by the seat of my pants.
So you had gender dysphoria. Would you say it started when you were a kid?
Oh, for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
I have a very typical story of most people who are transsexual like myself, who we just always felt, like we wanted to be boys or girls. I grew up
Right.
very tomboy. My parents were super awesome. I grew up in the 70s where it was kind of free flowing in the 70s, right? People smoking
Yeah.
marijuana and hippies. And I grew
Yeah.
up in that time, which is an amazing time. And gender was also really played with back in that day. And so my parents just thought I would grow out of it. And they were super cool. They let me dress like a boy, all of that. The more the turmoil started for me in high school. More when I was like 15 or 16. Though, I was a little fighter because people would call me names and I got teased and bullied a lot. But I do think I most definitely had some form of dysphoria.
Wow, so that means that back in the day, like I'm trying to figure out when was that? When did you transition?
So I transitioned, see, 30 years ago, so that would be, God, I
In
I
the
I can't
90s,
even,
right?
yeah, in the '90s,
In the
in the
90s.
early '90s. That's
So,
right, that's right.
um, and how okay, these are like maybe questions that are a bit sensitive, I don't know, but you
No,
say we don't change sex. So
that's
what
right.
happens? What did you have like surgery
Yeah,
wise?
before we move forward, I just want you to know nothing is sensitive for me. I'm very
Love it.
open. I'm very an open book. I want people to learn about this because what's happening is scaring me and it's not the same as me. So I want people to understand, and that's why I'm allowing you to ask questions who some people might find offensive, but this is my story and I don't care if people find it offensive in the trans community. I'm not talking about the trans community. I'm talking about me.
Right.
So that being said, I want to save people and I don't want them to go down the wrong path. So
Mhm.
that's why I sit with you today. So please don't feel like you can't ask me anything. I
Love it.
pretty much would open book. So that
Okay.
being said, yeah, I just wanted to say that to you because I
Appreciate.
think the people who are going to watch are going to want these hard questions. And I
Yeah.
think that, the point is if I don't answer these hard questions, then why am I sitting here?
Right.
Because we're spinning out. We're
Yeah.
literally spinning out and it's not okay. I
Right.
don't want to say this saved my life because now that's been taken over by this idea. Like, ugh, it's pathetic. Anyway, so I forgot the question. I'm sorry.
I was wondering, did you have a sex change? Like, what
Oh, right.
happens? What is the surgery?
So, you can't change your sex. All transsexual people know that. We can't change our sex. We come to this in a very logical manner. What we want to do is change the way our outside is looked at by people on the so my outside fits the way I sort of feel in my brain.
Right.
Doesn't change my sex. My biological sex will always be female. And that's why it's important for me to talk about that because what about health problems, all the things that are happening? If I don't tell the doctor, well, I'm actually a biological female who's been on testosterone for 30 years, how are they going to diagnose what's wrong with my heart or my lungs or
Yeah.
female reproductive system? So
Mhm.
I didn't change my sex. What I did is I changed the way I present to the world. So
Mhm.
I like to say that I'm a female who presents as male and walks the world, as a male. But I never
Mhm.
changed my biological sex.
So you are a parent.
Yes,
So
yes.
did you have the baby?
Oh, no, great question. So my partner had the baby, and my partner had the baby with a biological male, who's we're like a three-way family. So the biological dad is part of our family. Though my partner, my wife and I, we live and we have a kid and we share it with the other dad, and I'm the other dad. We're just two dads and we're two dads and a mom. We should make a TV show.
That would be very interesting, way better than the Kardashian, actually. I would watch this show. Well, I think it's important that we talk about this, as you just
Yeah,
said, because right now it feels like the issues are so polarized
that's
and
right.
we don't even know what we're actually talking about anymore.
That's right.
So you said you don't identify with the trans community, and I find it very important because I want to know, is there a community? Who's the
Yeah.
leader?
That's right. And community's loose, I don't believe there's a community anymore. I believe there's
Right.
some form of ideology happening that is, bringing youth, mostly youth, into a space that is so dangerous and so irreversible that I cannot believe a community that I once belonged to that was very loving, wanted all of us to have what we needed to have, but understood that children don't belong in this space. There might be kids. I wasn't just for a kid. There's no doubt
Mhm.
about it. But I am so happy that pardon me, this medicine didn't exist back in the day because I don't think my parents would have done it, to be honest with you. I think that they would have continued to just sort of think I was going to grow out of it. But I think parents are being pushed in this position of these manipulative tropes of if you don't do it, they'll kill themselves. Well, if that's
Yeah.
true, where are all the children killing themselves? That's
Right.
just not true. And that's a dangerous, very dangerous statement to make to people
Yeah.
like us. It's not okay.
Yeah.
So I see something that's not connecting to me in my own transition. That's why I really distinguish myself as a transsexual and not as transgender because a
What's the
person like
difference?
thank you for asking. So for me, I have a pardon me, I have a medical condition called gender dysphoria. I was
Right.
diagnosed by a doctor. I went through a system, and it's a medicalized system, and so that my outside can present male to the world. And I don't live as a trans person. I live as a man. Trans is my medical condition,
Right.
where these
Interesting.
kids are identifying as trans, which says to me, "Uh-oh, that's
Mm,
not the same. What do you mean you're identifying?" The whole point of transition is to go from A to Z, which means go from a
right.
female to a male or a male to female. That's always been what we've done, and that's
Right.
what it really is.
And that is way more binary. And I guess that's what society doesn't like right now about this. It's too easy. It has to be super complicated.
And, I just don't that's why I call it an ideology, friend,
Right.
because it's not about helping people. It's
Mhm.
not. You're not helping anybody by lying. You're not helping the world to see us as human beings. You're not helping our medical condition move forward and find I wish to God or the universe that I wasn't born as a transsexual. I wish I was born as a man. And
Mhm.
most transsexuals will tell you the same thing. We don't want to be trans. We don't want people to see us. We want people to see us as men and women.
Yeah, just to
Today,
fit in, right?
that's right.
Mhm.
That's the dysphoria. If and then now you don't even need dysphoria to be trans. So I'm like, then you're not trans. The whole
Really?
equation is really revolves around your dysphoric feelings. Now kids have autism, BPD, like every comorbidity in the book is now trans. That's not true. Those kids are not being diagnosed. They're just being told. You see the
Right.
difference? You're not
Well,
getting a diagnosis. You're being told. Totally different.
and that is where I'm talking about propaganda. I think that's what we're witnessing right now. And I've been
That's right.
very vocal here in Quebec about it.
Thank you.
And I've been called names, of course.
Course.
And I try to be,
Ridiculous.
smart and pragmatic about it,
Yep.
not
Yep.
get emotional because this is
Yep.
where nobody really listens to each other. But I honestly don't know why we have to aim children. Can we just let the kids alone?
Thank you.
What is
As
going on with
I'm a
that?
transsexual, and I'm telling you, leave the kids alone. What are you
Right.
kidding me? The last thing we should be doing is adding kids to this equation. First off, these kids are dealing with all kinds of stuff, right? I mean, all the kids I hung out with were tomboys and very they didn't transition. They all
Exactly.
went on to live as women like you. Like they didn't
Yeah.
have the same, maybe gay, maybe straight, whatever, but they didn't do what I did.
Mhm.
So now today, the minute you push against something feminine or masculine, you're trans. That is
Yeah.
so dangerous. These kids have to grow into their space. So that's just not okay with me, and why I sit with you today and why I'm very outspoken about this, because I do not believe the majority of these kids. First off, I don't think trans kids exist. I think kids with dysphoria exist, and I think kids
Right.
with all kinds of things, but kids have those. My kid my kid's all over the place. That
Yeah.
doesn't mean he's trans. He has long hair. He's doing his thing, you know what I mean? It's like, no, and,
And
like
would you raise your kid gender fluid or let him choose his
that's right,
gender?
whatever he wants. Like, I wouldn't let him choose his gender. I don't think I would do that. I don't think that's a good parent. I think
Okay.
that what I will do is say, "Hey, dude, you can be whatever you want, like this and that. You're a boy, but you can be whatever you want." Now, if he came to me and he said, I'm sorry, pardon me, I'm just getting
You've
over
been
a
sick, I
cold. Yeah.
know.
Um, he said to me, "Dad, I feel like a girl." Well, I would say, "Okay, well, what does that actually mean?" I
Right.
would push back. Let's talk about that. Let's get you into some therapy. You want
Mhm.
to wear a dress? Go right ahead. I don't really care. But
Mhm.
but you see, I feel like, and he doesn't know that I'm a transsexual man. He does
He
not know that.
doesn't?
Nope. Nope. There's no why
Fascinating.
would he know? Why would I want him to know? I don't want him to know about he'll learn later on when he's an adult, but as a child, the whole point of my transition was to be a man, not to be
Right.
trans. And
Right.
I don't want him to get caught up in all of that stuff. It's like, you know what I
Interesting.
mean? It's important for him to see me as a man, not as a trans person.
And that's how you wanna be in the world, so
That's
that makes
right.
sense, that makes
That's
sense.
right. That's right. And
Yeah.
I'm not lying to him, because there's no need for him to know that until he gets older. He'll know
Yeah.
probably when he gets older, but now
Yeah.
what's the point?
And he's a kid, as we just said, like, there are some topics I think that shouldn't bother kids, and this is
That's
one
right.
of the topics.
That's right.
But what do you think about those parents or TV shows or books that suggest that we've been assigned a gender, and that we should let the people, like, let the kids decide. What do you think about that?
Well, it's gross. It's propaganda. It's ideology. It's nonsense. There are such things as boys and girls. Stop
Yeah,
it. We were not assigned anything. We are male and female. I don't like any of that language. That language is ideological and cult like, and it's a
right.
lie. It's an actual blatant lie.
Yeah,
So,
biology is disregarded, dismissed, not, never existed.
never existed. Are you kidding me? First off, that's actually transphobic. So for me, that those words are transphobic because to be a transsexual, your biology is the equation. I was born a female. I don't feel this way. I want to look this way. That's called dysphoria, which is connected to biology. If you don't have biology attached to it, then trans doesn't exist. What are you
Hmm.
talking about? You're making stuff up. So I'm
Right.
not going to be a part of a lie. I don't need to lie to the world. I've always been very honest. And look, people like you are very respectful, and most of the world is very respectful
Yeah.
to me because I don't lie, and I don't need to lie. I don't need to lie about who and what I am. And in fact, I've embraced on some level my dysphoria and I have a mental disorder called gender dysphoria, and I'm
Well, I
okay with
see,
it.
the only fact that you say that, I'm sure is considered transphobic by the so-called trans community, because I've been trying to search online and see if it was considered a mental disorder. And it was really hard to get it,
That's right.
very in a factual manner. Yes, it is a mental disorder, but
That's
it is
right.
one,
It
but we're
is.
not even allowed to say it.
Well, I can, and so I'm
Yeah.
allowing you to say it right here
Please, thanks.
today. I have a
Thanks.
mental disorder called gender dysphoria. If somebody wants to push back on me, I will pull the paper out from my doctor 30 years ago that gave me a written thing that says that I have gender dysphoria. So don't tell me I don't have something I don't have. How rude of people to do that. Secondly, it's important for this to be categorized at a medical disorder because it's how we move forward with any disorder. Once you get like your doctor tells you, "Oh, dude, you have diabetes." Oh, it's why I've
Now
been
I
feeling.
know.
That's right, friend. So don't take the work away that me and many other people before me did to get us into this space to acknowledge what we have so that we could get the medical world to come to us and give us all the medicine we need and get it into insurance. Now in America, insurance pays. That was from the hard work of the trans people before all these people. And the reason these people get hormones paid for by the insurance is because it's a mental disorder. If you
Right.
take it out of that equation, you're not going to get anything because now it's become elective and it's something you
Mhm.
choose to be. I don't choose to be this. I never want to be this. It's something that I was born with and I deal with it.
Yeah, and I like how you're being very honest about it. Like, I've been following you for a while, and I
Thank
see
you.
you posted pictures of you as a woman,
Yep.
and you were a very beautiful woman, but
Thank
you
you.
were very unhappy.
That's right.
And that is how I think you're going to get people to relate to your story, because it
Yeah.
makes it just very humane.
Thank
and
you.
and that's why I'm so glad we're talking today, because we've had like this stupid issues that's been spinning for weeks now about a drag queen in Quebec that's been reading to children in the library. And I know
Wow.
you guys had that issue a
Yeah.
lot in America.
Yeah.
Um and the question I keep asking, and I've been on the radio about it, and I've been talking about it. I want
Mm.
to know why the drag queens want to have children as a public now, as an
Yeah.
audience. Is that really necessary? Weren't you happy
No.
where you were in bars before?
Yeah.
And this is where I feel like it's more like, it feels like indoctrinating
Yeah.
kids to an
It does.
ideology that and you said the word cult, and it
Yeah.
really looks like a cult, and some parents are not okay with that.
That's
And
right.
so
That's right.
what is going on with this phenomenon of drag queens?
I don't know. So let me just say something here. So I don't agree with drag queens being around kids. Most drag queens are sexual. It's a bar. I grew up around half my friends are drag queens. It's a very adult space. It's you know what I
Yeah,
mean? I'm friends with all the guys on RuPaul's Drag Race, all that. That how is that a space for children? And most of the drag people I know agree with that sentiment. Now,
really.
if a drag queen is in a library and dressed like a librarian, right? Like very matronly or very I'm going to tell you that I don't necessarily have a problem with that
Right.
because it's more kind of fun and we're like hanging out. You know, you do that with clowns, or you could
True,
bring a
true.
clown
Yeah.
in and the clown's clowns are scarier to me than drag
Yeah.
queens.
Yeah.
But I don't have an issue if they're not showing their breasts and they're not twerking and showing dollar bills. And it's very, I really don't. The problem I have is, yeah, when we bring kids into this space where we're teaching them to give dollar bills, and people out there, don't tell me this isn't happening. We all see it. And for you guys to deny it makes all of us look like idiots. So as
Mm.
long as we start agreeing that they're a part of that drag queen stuff, that you should never be around children, that is in a very adult space, but we can work with, I'm the guy who likes to find solutions, and I'm the guy
Right.
who's really willing to build that bridge. And not all drag shows are that way, but what we're seeing and what people are putting out there is pretty horrific. So
Mhm.
of course we have to have boundaries around children. Are you kidding me? They are very vulnerable. You start seeing that looks very sexualized. And we
Exactly.
cannot do that with kids. That is so
Wrong.
inappropriate and wrong. It just is. Why would you want to bring kids into a space like that? It's weird.
Well, I think the way it's been, publicized is that, um, the drag queens are adapting their shows or whatever, and
Yes.
they do it in a
Yes.
way that they
Yes.
don't talk about sexuality.
Yeah.
But my problem here is that
Yeah.
they do talk about LGBTQIA2
That's
plus
right.
whatever. I lost count. But they explain the letters, and they so there is like
That's right.
this is where I think we should
That's right.
leave the kids alone.
That's right.
I always come back
Totally.
to that.
I mean, why are we showing LGBTQIA plus PP poo poo all over the place? Who cares? Right? Like, come on, people. People are cool with stuff now. People don't care. Like, I grew up in an era where we got beat up, where all my friends died of AIDS, where people didn't
Wow.
understand gay people. I mean, I could tell you story upon story. I really did come from a very violent, horrible space of homophobia and
Wow.
transphobia on some level.
Were you
So,
born in LA?
I was born and raised here, and I
Wow.
got the crap beat out of me here in West Hollywood as a lesbian, big dyke. I was a big old butch dyke. Oh man, people would follow me and beat me up with baseball
Are
bats
you
and break my. No,
serious?
I'm serious. I dealt with a lot of stuff because I was also a fighter. You know what I mean? Come on,
Right.
bring it on! So
Yeah.
and then next 10 dudes are on top of me, and I'm getting
Ow.
my head bashed in.
Wow.
Yeah, it was horrible. I lived around a lot of violence and a lot of homophobia. So when I see things today, I'm like, no, that's just not true. I have a lot of lived experience, people. These people are
Right.
coming to this game with 6 months of I'm trans, right?
Mhm.
And prior to that, never even lived in the LGBT community before. Many of these people aren't necessarily LGBT. They're sort of latching on, especially the trans and queer movement have literally taken over the whole community.
It
It, it,
did, yeah,
it's
and I'm
insane.
sure that some homosexual and lesbians are just not okay with that. I
No,
follow a lot on Twitter actually that aren't okay with
they're
that.
not.
So I guess you guys have to be vocal now because it
That's
feels
right.
like it's becoming so strong,
Mhm.
and they are backed by the media, the
That's
mainstream
right.
media, and
That's right.
politics.
Politics. Now trans is a political movement. You know
It
that.
really
It's a
feels like that.
militant movement. It's trans rights activists are terrorists. They're violent. They're militant. That has nothing to do with trans rights. I am fully opposed to what they're doing. I'm opposed to these big, huge things that they go and protest when a woman wants to speak. And the next thing you see a woman getting punched in the face.
Like Riley Gaines recently.
I'm friends with Riley. She's
Oh,
awesome. We
really?
talk all the time. She's an amazing human being. I really, because I support her. Are you
She's
kidding
awesome.
me? Like, don't
Yeah.
you dare. Like, Leah Thomas, man, don't get me started on that. Leah, shame on you. Shame on you. You
Have you
know
ever talked
exact.
to her?
She won't talk to me. None of these people will talk to me. They just call
Oh.
me transphobic and, block me, or that's how I know they're all fake. Because if you really
Mhm.
want to have a conversation, I'm willing. You know me. I'm sitting right here. I
Yeah.
sit in the hot seat all the time.
Yeah.
They won't have the conversation. You know that. They won't even have it with you.
No, of
That's
course.
because that says to me something's wrong. If
Yeah.
if you really want to, I want to move us forward. That's why I sit here.
Right.
I don't want us to
Uh,
be in this position.
I want to explain for those who are not familiar with Riley Gaines. I don't think
Yeah.
we've talked so much in Quebec about her. I'm sure in the United States it was different because she was on Fox News, but here you pronounce Fox News and then you're an alt-right, crazy conservative. So we're not even allowed to say Tucker Carlson. Oh my
Wow.
God, I just pronounced his name. It's like Voldemort. Um,
It's like
it's
J.K. Rowling.
exactly, it's all coming together. It's all in a
Hilarious.
circle. But so Riley Gaines was, for those who don't know, she is an athlete. She competed against Leah Thomas, who's a
Mhm.
biological male.
That's right.
They swam together and they tied together in the swimming pool. But the association, I'm not sure how it's called, they
Yeah.
said, we're going to put Leah Thomas on the podium because it looks better for the pictures. And she's been vocal about it. She said, I felt let down. She trained
Yeah.
all her life. And
Unbelievable.
of course, as a woman, as a mother of a little girl, I don't want my kid, if she's into sport, which would surprise me because I'm not sportive at all, but kids can surprise us. Uh,
Sure.
I want her to have a chance to go for the top. I want
That's
her to
right.
be the best. And it's so obvious to me that it is unfair. And
Yep.
the only fact that feminists right now are cheering for Leah Thomas,
Yep.
how did we get there? It
It's
happened
sick.
so fast, like I
That's
didn't
right.
even see it coming.
Nope, none of us did, and so I was
Not
a female athlete. I was a pretty high-ranking female athlete back
re
in the '70s. Can you
Wow,
imagine? And, like, I know what it is to fight for women's sports. I
right.
fought for it. I had to do so many more things than any guy ever had to do to get to these different levels, and I was, dealing with my sexuality at the time and liking girls, and, like, they would tell you, "If you come out as a lesbian, we're gonna drop you from the team." They would say
Oh,
stuff like
wow.
that. So I
Wow.
dealt with a lot of nonsense back in the day. I will never, I want everyone here to hear this from me today. I will never, ever turn my back on women's rights. I will never turn my back on women's sports. And how dare trans women think that they are capable of competing at that level? It's shameful. It's transphobic on so many levels. And it's also misogynist.
It
To,
is.
it is so insane. Leah just knows what she's doing. I will not, I don't agree. She's not doing. And you can see it on her face. She's kind of smirky and kind of shitty. If she would turn around and said, "You know what? I'm giving the trophy to you, Riley." Oh my God, people would love her beyond belief. It was the right thing to do. So
Yeah,
I
and
will not deal with that.
what here in, I don't know, like I come from the TV industry. Like I feel like everybody's been brainwashed.
Yep.
Everybody became
Yep.
very woke,
That's
but
right.
I really feel like I'm standing alone. But
No, you're not. You're not. We're all
yeah,
we're all coming together. Me and you are building a bridge right now, just so you know.
I'm glad.
Secondly, the more me and you do these kinds of things, the more people will feel empowered. I see it. They're starting to say, "I'm done. I'm
Oh,
not gonna
great,
I'm not gonna
great,
sit around and pretend like this is you know what I mean? I'm in a very good position, my friend, because I am a transsexual. And
exactly.
and I can say all of these things. That's why I don't get banned on TikTok, or not TikTok,
Yeah,
Twitter,
yeah.
because I can say it. I have a lived 30-year experience.
And thanks so much for doing it because I guess you could just go on and live your life. As you
That's
said,
right.
you've been through your own fights in
That's
your
right.
life, and I'm sure you didn't really see it coming. This new
Never.
fight that just dropped on you at 60. Um, how come
I
you never? How come you never saw it coming? How did it happen
I
so
know.
fast?
Well, I'll be honest, I saw something maybe 10 years ago. I saw something. And then I was like, well, it's just the kids. You just kind of kids do things. I remember when I was a kid, I was a punk rocker and, I was all these like crazy things. You just find space or something. Kids are just playing with gender. That's cool. We
Yeah.
all have done that, right? But then the turning point for me was when anyone can be trans. I started
Mm.
seeing that coming out of the youngster's mouth. Anyone can be trans. That started a little red flag. Then I'm like, okay, I'm going to sit and watch. So, pardon me, I sat and watched. Then you don't need gender dysphoria to be trans. I was like, what? Okay, something bad's happening, but I still didn't put my foot in the ring. And
Right.
then
Where
people
did you join
started
the conversation?
I didn't, I just watched. So then and I kinda mad at myself, but at the same time, like, "No, I'm just gonna watch." Then they started calling me transphobic, and then they started calling me old, and then they started telling me to sit down and shut up, Tramp Paul, we got it from here. I'm like, Wait a minute. No, you will
Wow.
not ever speak to me. I've done a lot of work, traveled the world for this community. It's mine too. It's not
Mhm.
yours.
Yeah.
So that's when I started standing up. And boy, my when I first came into the ring, I got smashed, man. People
Really?
hated me, boycott me, cancel me, blah blah blah. It happened. They really tried to cancel me. They couldn't. I'm not you can't take me out. There's
And
no
when
way.
you say they, you're talking about the so-called trans activist.
TRAs, the trans right activists, they were saying now they were trying to dig up dirt on me. You can't. There is no dirt. I've been honest about who I am and what I am forever.
They're
So
so
they
aggressive.
oh my god, they were insane. I go, "I'm a transsexual. You are being transphobic to me. Are you insane? You have
Yeah.
internalized transphobia," they would say
Oh.
it
Oh,
to
yeah,
me.
I've been told that quite
I'm
often.
like, first off, I transitioned before you were born, so you sit down. My
Yeah.
grandpa takes over here, kids." So that's when I said, "Nope, nope, I'm done. You will not." And then I started seeing the way they were treating women, and then the mantra, "Trans women are women." I was like, "What? No, they're
Yeah.
not. I
Yeah.
trans women are trans women. What are you talking? When you start saying stuff like that, you are also taking away from our trans experience. We have a different experience than you or
Right.
a male. I have a different experience than a biological male. I'm not the
Of
same as a
course.
bio man. I have a completely different experience. Doesn't make me any less sort of male on some level or not being able to sit at the table with dudes. I have so many dude friends. It's crazy. They love me. I have no issues with I have more issues with trans people than I do with
Right.
regular world. And that should tell you something.
Well, they're not. I find it very contradictory because they say we have to be more tolerant and inclusive, and they're becoming so exclusive that I'm not even allowed as a woman to say the most beautiful thing that's happened to me is to
Yeah,
have a baby in my
that's right.
belly.
That's right.
And that's what makes me a woman, and I think
That's
this is
right.
where J.K. Rowling came to the conversation as well.
That's right.
You can't take that away from us. We've been
Nope.
fighting so hard to have something that makes us special,
That's
and
right.
this is what makes women special. We carry the life. We carry the life in our body. How sacred and precious is
Yes.
that?
Yes.
And I feel like once again, as a feminist, we are attacking women,
That's right.
and
We
that's where I'm
are.
coming very strong to the conversation because,
Thank you.
you come as a trans and I
Yep.
come as a woman who just
That's
had
right.
two babies during the pandemic where people just lost their minds. And
Wow.
I feel like we're losing even more our minds as
We are.
society because we are completely lost. Like we don't know
Yep.
what's a woman, we don't know what's a man anymore, we don't know what's a family. Like how can we escape that? And I honestly, I'm worried for my kids. I just, as I said, I just have a baby, 3
Yeah.
months old. uh
Congratulations.
Thanks, but it's worrisome when you see what's going
Well,
on
of
with the
course it
world.
is. Even for me I have a 10-year-old, I'm worried for him. I don't want him to get caught up in that ideology. That's why I'm really present at his school. And his school is
Nice.
kinda woke, and he goes to a private school. Excuse me, but I keep my eye on my hand on the pulse. And I already
Yeah, because
told
you're
them,
in LA, right? So
I'm
I
in
feel like
oh,
LA is quite far, yeah, on the left side.
big time.
So what's the solution? You say you love to find solutions. I guess
Right.
being more present at school is one of those.
That's one of them.
What do you do?
I really make myself vocal. I have my own
Right.
YouTube channel. I stay on Twitter. I do as many of these interviews I can do. I get my voice into the arena. I keep talking, and I already see the sort of kind of I see my work paying off. I see people coming to me and saying, "Wow, Buck, we didn't know there was a difference between a transsexual and a transgender." And we see you. That all we want is for people to be honest. And I
I
said,
gotta be
"Trans,
honest, I don't think I really got the difference between the transgender and the
yeah."
transsexual. Can you
Sure, great. I think it's very important so that
yeah,
people can understand. So, a transsexual person is somebody who gets diagnosed with a disorder called gender dysphoria, and you
gotcha.
use therapy and you use that space to get your diagnosis. All transsexual people have a diagnosis of gender dysphoria. We now use medical, such as hormones, surgery, to present as the sex or gender, whatever you want to call it, to the world. So, for
Right.
example, I'm a biological female and I got diagnosed with gender dysphoria and I had to go through a system, 2 years of therapy. It was a full slow system. It's why I'm very solid, 30 years,
Yeah.
and I never looked back. And so we're really in a medicalized space and we really connect with our mental, disorder, and we have no issues with it. And we just want to present to the world as men and women. We're very binary. We're not. There's no such thing as a transsexual non-binary. That's not true. Transsexual is specifically a binary space. Now,
Yeah.
transgender is an umbrella term for everything else you see today, right
Right.
there. So that's
Yeah.
the difference between me and them. I have a
Uh-huh.
diagnosis. I don't live as a trans person. I live as a man, or my
Right.
identification says male. I don't put my bios in my. If you see people with their pronouns in their bio, they're probably transgender and not transsexual.
There, but it's getting very popular. Everybody does that now.
Because they got brainwashed.
Yeah, they are,
I don't
and they
play
want to be
that
on the
game.
good side. Like I want to be with the gang, and that was the same with. I don't want to get there, but with the vaccination here, we
Yeah, of
got very
course.
a lot of pressure. 90%
So do
of
we.
Canadians are vaccinated, so
That's right.
pressure
That's
was
right.
a lot of people did it and told me personally that they felt raped. So the
Wow.
pressure was so strong. And the girl who told
Wow.
me that she had been raped in her life, and
Oh,
she was
God.
crying when she was explaining what she's been through when she got injected. But the
Wow.
pressure was so strong, like you could lose your job. And
Yep.
so I feel like we've been so far in this direction. And
Yeah.
once again, like we are going in an ideology that
That's
is
right.
that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And once
No.
again, I've always said, like, I don't care if you're gay, if you're
Yeah.
do whatever you want, honestly. But where I feel like I'm worried is where you use drugs on kids that we don't know
That's
what's
right.
the effects, the long-term
That's right.
effects. I'm worried if they start having surgeries when they're still minors. I'm worried if they go to school and they're being indoctrinated a certain way that doesn't fit with how I want to raise my kids.
That's right.
And I want everybody's pro acceptance,
Yeah.
tolerance, peace in the world. Like everybody wants those
That's
values.
right.
So it's like a fake debate to say that we're debating about those values. This is
It's not
not the
true.
issues
It's
here.
not.
Yeah.
You
And
you're very straight on. There's a lot of people who feel like you. They're like, "I'm totally cool with trans people. I've always been cool. I'm not cool with this. You are
exactly.
forcing me to accept." I would never, ever force you to accept me, ever. If you wanna call me she, you go right ahead. If it makes you feel better, you go right ahead. I'm not here for you. I'm here for me, and I
Yeah.
don't need your validation, and that's the difference between me and them. I don't need to lie to you. I don't need your validation. I've done
Mhm.
all of my transitioning for myself and for
Right.
me to live in this world as a healthy human being. I'm a
Happy.
successful entrepreneur, and I didn't even graduate high school. I don't come from an academic background. I proved to the world that this guy who was called stupid, who said he would never be a success, should probably be dead. Here
Mm,
I am today. So you cannot shut me up and you cannot
right.
tell me to sit down. I have every right to say everything I'm saying. Number one. Number two, I fought for women's rights
Right.
back in the 80s and 90s when I was a dyke and dealing with, and then I had to deal with AIDS. And I was part of the whole AIDS, movement of saving these men who were dying of AIDS. And these young people are so entitled. They think they're fighting for something. No, they're not. They're ruining everything we built. We had total
Right.
acceptance in the world.
Yeah.
110% we did. I'm telling you, as a person who's lived this life, I had
Yeah.
acceptance. It was going up. People were just like, wow, dude, that's so cool. You're a dude. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, you do you.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not anymore. Like you feel
No,
we are creating transphobia?
that's right. We
Yeah.
sure are. We're creating
Yeah.
it. The trans community is creating it, and it's specifically around trans women. Okay. And, you don't see a lot of guys like me speaking up, do you?
No.
Nope, you
No.
sure don't. You see mostly trans women who are dominating the conversation. And I don't want you to think that I'm anti-trans women. I'm not. I have tons of trans women friends who feel the same way I do and who are starting to speak up. But that
Nice.
being said, it's a certain type of trans woman who is now dominating this conversation. And here's what people need to stop and listen to what I'm about to say right now. It is not transphobic for me to say this. Trans women are biological males, period. I don't care
Period.
what you say to me. I don't care what you come at me. It is the truth, not my truth, not her truth, the truth. They are biological males, or you're not trans. Secondly, they are dominating the conversation because they socialize as male. Remember that I socialize as a female for 30 years of my life. Most of these people are older people who transitioned, right, who are transitioning at 20, 30. So at some point they've been socialized in the world as men. So
Yeah.
men have a different way of being, right? They're
Right.
very used to getting what they want.
True. It's a man's world.
That's right.
And we were talking about righty gains, and we didn't get to the bottom of it. You said you're friends with her. I
Yeah,
don't feel like we talked a lot about her, but
right.
she is carrying something very heavy on her
Heavy.
shoulders. Um, I'd like to hear you on that. What do you think
I
about
just
that?
love her. You know, she takes a lot. It takes a lot of guts to stand up against this mob insanity. And she got hit and she got put into a room for 3 hours by trans activists, asking for money for her to leave, and then the
What?
gross university at San Francisco. Yeah, they kept her captive in that closet for
But
3
they asked
hours
for money?
and were caught. They were saying, "Maybe we should ask for ransom. Maybe we should make her send money to our Venmo." I'm like, "What? That's illegal."
Yeah.
Number 1, number 2, pushing and shoving on her is illegal. That's abuse.
Right.
She didn't come there to deal with you people. She came there to talk about women in sports. Now all
Right.
of a sudden women can't talk about their own space. Nope, I'm not part of that. If
And they
you
were
want,
just chanting women, trans women are women, and
that's
it's
that bullshit that they were
yeah.
like, what? No one's talking about you, you narcissistic weirdos. Like, go move over here. Let women have their space. How dare you?
Yeah,
It's so upsetting for me
it
because
is.
I can't handle it. It's not right. It's nothing to do with trans people. It's these narcissistic weirdos who are I kind of feel like there's a jealousy or there's an envy towards women that is
Uh,
being sort of at the surface of all of this stuff,
well,
right?
you were talking about misogyny, and it feels like it.
That's
There
right.
is some
That's right.
hatred underlying.
That's
If
right.
you really do like women, you would at least sit down and listen to her testimony.
That's
And
right.
how is that even possible not to be moved, but by what she's been through? Tears came to my eyes
I
when
know,
I
me too.
listened to her.
Me too.
She's been through something. She was saying that she had to share changing rooms with
That's
Leah
right.
Thomas, and then she explained that she has a penis.
That's
So,
right.
how can you force that upon so many women?
You can't.
Yeah, this is sexual abuse in a certain way. If you didn't ask to see somebody genitals, it's considered sexual abuse.
That's right.
And
In
you
what other world okay, so if a dude just started pulling his penis out, that's sexual abuse. Well, what's the difference between that and a trans one pulling her penis out? You
What
see
is
what I
the
mean?
difference? Oh, it's a
What
trend,
there
so it's
isn't.
okay.
No, it is not okay. She is a biological male and she needs to learn how to respect women's space if she wants to be in that space. I don't run around shoving my vagina in men's spaces and saying, look at, I'm a man with a vagina. I mean, I just don't do that.
Yeah.
It's not appropriate. I go to places and I get naked, but I don't fling it, when I'm in the gym, I change, I go in the shower, but I always wear a towel and I'm very respectful of it. So it's
Yeah.
just not something, but men, it's a different story. Men don't care about people like me. This is
And
really
I heard
women.
Joe Rogan about that, and he was saying, I guess it's different because men are don't feel threatened, and
That's right. That's
it's a
right.
different dynamic, I guess.
That's
But
right.
there's also like all the fact that men are stronger physically. So we have all the jails now that
That's right.
the self-identifying
No.
biological male will be transferred to women's jail, and then they
Unbelievable.
will rape women.
Yeah,
Um,
it's happening here in California.
it's happening everywhere, and no one
It's
talks about it.
unbelievable. No one talk
Yeah.
oh, I do, I talk I'm actually going to the women's prison, they're getting me in here in
Are
California
you
because
serious?
I have lots of great friends, and so anyway, I'm working on getting in, and I'm going to the women's prison where, there are actual trans men in the women's prison because I wanna interview the oh, bad things are happening there too, very bad things. They're giving them surgeries and they're being botched. So they're giving them top surgeries and they're all getting infections,
Are
and
you
no one's talking.
serious?
It's crazy what's and then I asked the trans guy, "So why are you don't you wanna transfer to the men's prison?" They're like, "No way. I wanna stay in the women's prison." Of
Of
course they
course.
do.
Of course, and
And
you don't see the opposite
you
way.
don't
It's
see
just
the
going
opposite.
One
And of
way.
course, for the trans women in prison, right? They can just self ID. They're not even getting any diagnosis. They can say, I'm a trans woman,
Oh
and
yeah.
they're a trans woman. That's why it's bullshit. Right
It's
there.
but
Right
it's
there.
been accepted,
I
and
know. It's sick. It's
it is
sick.
very worrisome.
Yep.
Trudeau here, Justin Trudeau,
Ugh.
is very, very all in for this ideology. So we are sort of fucked with this government right now. I'm sorry to say so, but it really feels like that. And he's been reelected, so
Ugh.
we're going through.
Canada, Canada. My dad's Canadian, so I
Oh,
can talk a
really?
little crap here. My
Oh my
dad's from
god.
Winnipeg, and
Oh,
um,
cool.
he played pro football in Canada. So he was with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and with the Calgary
Nice.
Stampeders, and so I grew up going back and forth between Canada
So
and
you
the
get it,
U.S.
how it's
I
like.
get it. Yep.
Well, we're yes men, and we don't we well, Quebec is different because we've
Oh,
been
totally.
French Canadian. So for a while, I thought we were the rebels of the country
We
until
were.
the pandemic happened, and
Yep.
then I realized I don't know exactly what happened, but
It
no,
captured you. It
yeah,
captured Quebec. It did. I'm
yeah,
shocked because Quebec has always been its own space and always
yeah,
been rebellious in the Canadian space. And I'm very
not anymore,
shocked that it took over. But that shows you the power of money. It's all
right?
money related.
Money, it's always money related, but
Yep,
I feel there's also the power of very good propaganda.
that's
And
true.
here we're in love with our TV. Everybody watches TV, and it's such a small community. We're 8 millions, I think, in
Yeah.
province of Quebec.
Mhm.
So it feels like everybody knows the main journalist, and there's like this main guy that hosts a show on TV that everybody watches on Sunday nights, and
Okay.
so everybody adopts the same opinions because it's
Yeah.
the good opinion to have today. And if it changes tomorrow, then I'm going to read the newspaper and find out, oh, I'm
Wow.
no longer allowed to say that. Oh, okay. So I'm going to go with the crew. And I can't do that. And that's why I've been very vocal since the beginning of the pandemic.
Right.
And and I guess a lot of people are happy to see people like me
Yes.
coming out and speaking their truth, because some people are
Thank
just
you.
worried to talk, and you do the same thing. So I feel like we connect there, and it's
That's right.
very awesome that some people can do it. Like I feel like I have the personality. I've always been feisty, and it is who I am. Some people are just not like me, and I don't judge that.
Of course
But
not. They can't do it.
no,
People do lose their jobs from these crazy people. People do dox them and do crazy, insane stuff. So
yeah,
it's up to people like me and you to build
exactly.
bridges between each other. We don't have to agree with everything at
No,
all. No way do we have to. I don't agree with my wife half the time.
exactly.
So who
True.
cares? But
Yeah.
that's what makes life fun and awesome and critical thinking. But if it wasn't, people like us who are able to do this, it's powerful. It's powerful for me to say trans women are trans women. Trans women are not women. Do you know how powerful that is? And
Hmm.
for me not to care what you think about that. I don't care that you don't like it, and I don't care that you push back on me. It's the actual real truth.
Yeah.
And guess what? I'll tell you what, as a 60-year-old tranny, truth wins. It always wins. It always will win. We're in a cycle of insanity right now, but we're going to spin out of it. We are. Please. I know it. As long as
I hope.
we continue to put the truth back into the arena, the
Yeah.
truth will come back because everything they're building is on a false foundation, and you cannot build a house on a false foundation. It will crash.
True, true. I like, it's, gives me hope to listen to you.
Yes, right
There are
on.
moments where I'm like, "Oh my god, where is the world going? And why did I make babies?" And
No,
but
thank God people like you are making babies. We need you to
exactly,
make
right?
make babies.
That's what I used to say when I was pregnant, but then, I guess I'm becoming tired, and I
I
can't
feel
see
you.
straight. But there are a few things I'd like to discuss before I
Sure,
let you go. We've
sure.
been talking about sexuality. You said you're an entrepreneur. I
Mhm,
saw that you were are you a porn star? Is that what I
mhm.
saw?
Well, here's
Wait,
what
tell me
back in
about
the
that.
yeah, so let's talk about it. So 20
Yeah.
years ago, I created the genre actually of trans male pornography. 20 years ago. And so it was very good for me. I will never back away from my pornography. Now, pornography is a very personal space. It's not for everybody, and not everybody should watch it. Now, I don't make anything for children. It's an
Yeah.
adult space. It's called adult entertainment.
Right.
And I know many people don't like pornography, and I'm completely okay with that. I have no issues with that, but I will not lie about it. Yes, I
Mhm.
did do that. I don't do it now, but I did
Okay.
do it, and I became very well known because of it, and it's the reason I sit here today. The pornography sort of catapulted me into the world of speaking, and I
Nice.
speak all over the world. I've been everywhere, and I speak about, why my pornography became sort of a space that helped people learn their bodies. Guys like me who and on some level, I don't have bottom surgery, so I don't have a penis. I still have a vagina. And I wanted to celebrate that and show that I could live my life without having that surgery, which is not really a great surgery. And so I really try to impress this idea that you don't have to have that surgery to live male. And it
Hmm.
really gave a bunch of people this sort of strength to move forward without having to have the penis to be a man. And then from that, I just sort of created products. So sex toys or whatever you want to call them.
Right.
And I created the world's first trans male. I call it a sexual wellness product because it's more about connecting to your body. And I'm still in that space of creating products because I do believe in sex, and sex really did help me be so. I think I'm so confident because I love sex and I'm very
Yeah.
happy. And at 60, I'm still that guy. But I think it's important that people understand it's not always a bad thing, pornography. Yeah, there's a deep, dark, dirty, nasty side of it
Yeah.
that's gross, and I don't want anything to do with it. And then there's a
Yeah.
side where there's women who create porn. There's all
Yeah.
kinds of great, beautiful things that come out of it. It's not for everybody. Totally get it. And
You
at the
don't have
same
to justify. Like I hear that you've been probably told very
oh
often that
God, it's
pornography is,
ridiculous. People are
yeah.
like, "You're a pornographer." I'm like, "Okay, yeah,
Well, this
right.
is so American though, because to me, it's like everybody watches porn at some point in
That's
their
right.
life. So let's just be
Thank
honest
you."
about pornography, please. But
Yeah, well, look at your
Americans,
background. You're, French Canadian, so you have a much more open mind around it. French people are much more open about,
yeah, it's the
Europeans
Latin
are.
blood, I think.
Right on.
Yeah, I'm
Right
not
on.
sure why people are so. I'm not sure. It feels almost fake about it,
Yeah, that's true.
but good for you that you did that.
Thank you.
Because I think sexuality is also a part of our being, and
That's right.
might as well embrace it and try to
That's
find a
right.
way to be happy with it. And
Thank
that's what you
you.
did. So good for you.
Thank you, friend. I very much appreciate that. Yeah, as you can see, I just have to always be like, yes, I did. I'm never going to deny it. I'm never going to say I still am around it. And it's something
Yeah.
I like to do. You don't have to like it. It's fine.
So what do you think about the surgery? Like the actual
Mm,
some people really want the penis, right?
that's right.
And the other
That's
way
right.
around. And
Mhm.
how does that work? And how is that even a sure thing? I
It's
heard there
not a
are a
sure
lot of
thing.
complications.
Yep.
Yeah, you were talking about
Lots.
guinea pig
Yep.
earlier, and it
Yep.
feels like that's what we're doing with the trans community.
Oh
Well, I don't know,
gosh, especially with kids.
especially
That
with
those
kids.
kids are experiments. Don't you dare tell me they're not. They don't know anything what they're doing.
Yeah.
There's a new video out with trigonometry. If you ever watch them, they're really great. And they have a great interview with Jamie Reed, the woman who whistle blew at the university. I think it's St. Louis Hospital in Washington Hospital, St. Louis. I think it is. Look it up. Anyway,
Oh,
Jamie
yeah, I'm
Reed.
writing it down.
Oh my god, it's gonna blow your mind. You're gonna see
Okay.
everything that's going on there. She literally whistle blew about how this whole thing is a scam and
Oh
how they're
my
bringing
god.
all these kids in. She said there was over 2,000 kids there getting hormone blockers and puberty blockers, and then she said the parents were complaining that their kids weren't feeling well and their kids are getting worse, and they wouldn't take them off the blockers.
Wow.
Pardon
And no
me.
one's doing anything.
No, no, they're just ramping it up.
That
Excuse me. So
that's terrible.
I'm more concerned about kids. I'll be honest with you. Like adults, people, you got Google. If you're making a mistake, that's your problem. You better research what's going on here. I didn't have any information. You have it all at your fingertips. That being
Yeah.
said, kids don't. Kids are being tricked into this, or your whole life is going to be better. And
Right.
also, I just want to impress this thought out there. If this was actually really happening and all these kids really had gender dysphoria and all these kids really need this medicine, why is it only an upswing first off of young girls? Okay. How come the upswing is not continuing with boys? It became girls when it used to be boys and then it became girls. And then also, my other question is if it was across, why isn't it across the board? Why are adults
Yeah.
not transitioning at the same rate that children are? That's how we
Yeah.
can literally poke a hole in the
Yeah.
whole
I've had
thing.
this conversation with feminists that are, I guess you would say, turf.
Sure. I'm a
Uh,
turf. I'm a turf.
yeah. Well, I guess I'm a turf as well. And
Whatever.
that's one of the argument they were giving, that the fact that it
That's
feels
right.
like it's been
It's
pushed on
lopsided.
them, and
That's
there's an
right.
agenda pushing.
That's right.
Um, and I know you shared that on Twitter, and
Yep.
halfway through the J.K. Rowling,
Oh,
the witch trials.
it's so good. It's
It's
so
such an
good.
amazing documentary, very
Yep.
well made. I highly recommend all of those who understand English to watch it.
Great.
And they talk about numbers, how it has boomed, like gender dysphoria is
Yep.
booming.
Yep. That's
And
right.
to me, it's not, some people would say that's because they're more comfortable saying their
It's not
truth.
true.
What do you think about
That's
that?
I hate that. I hate that they say that because if that was true, if that was actually true, then it would be across the board, and it's not. It's only young people who are doing it, and you can see the social contagion. The woman who's whistleblowing the Jamie Reed interview, you're gonna see, she said, "It's so obvious." She said, "These kids say they're non-binary, and then they're immediately referred to the gender clinic and immediately put on hormones after
You
one
tweeted about that today.
Oh, it makes me so mad because I'm like, "You're all lying. I can prove to you you're all lying. These kids are getting one single session and they're immediately stamped as trans. They're pushing them through. That's not we're doing such a disservice to children. First off, they're putting the cart before the horse, if that makes sense. Medicalization should be the last resort, okay?
Yeah,
It's all here. Do you know that being trans is in your mind? It's not in your
right,
body. Why are you
right,
giving kids puberty blockers? Because you're so gross because they don't want these kids to grow up with male or female characteristics. So they're giving them some insane drug that is going to destroy their physical space. These kids are healthy. They are
right.
actually physically healthy kids who need to go through. I went through female puberty. Do I look like a woman to you?
Nope.
I went through female puberty. I lived half my life as a female. So don't
Mm.
tell me these kids need puberty blockers. They sure the heck don't. It's trans women who are pushing it because trans women have a different, much more difficult time transitioning than women do. But the
Uh,
majority of these kids are girls. So I'm telling trans women, you don't get to have a conversation here. You need to step
mhm.
aside. These are young girls. They're not young boys. And
Yeah,
there's a difference between a young girl and a young boy. Yeah, a young boy's going to grow up with facial hair, bigger, broader shoulders, hands, very male characteristics that are much harder to sort of move forward. But
yeah,
girls aren't. Girls, you can take testosterone if you decide you're trans later on, and you can literally become a man.
yeah, yeah. I guess it's easier this way than the
It's
other
so
way.
much easier for
Yeah.
a female to a male. But my point being is, why are you giving these kids puberty blockers? And more than half of them are whatever 4,000% increase of young girls. These are young
Insane.
girls.
Do you have an opinion? Like, do you think it's because there is money at the end of the
Of
day?
course, there's no
Yeah,
doubt about money's attached to it, ego, narcissism, oh my god, so control. It's
right.
an ideology. You do not give children medication until you give them a long-term amount of therapy, and they're not
Yeah,
doing that. That's why I know it's fake, because why aren't you giving these kids hard we used to have to go through years of therapy before
which
we were
makes sense.
of course,
Yeah,
with anything, right? With any
yeah.
kind of you're not gonna just stamp this kid with autism. I sure hope you're giving this kid a lot of testing and trying to understand what that really means. And now autism, they're equating autism to trans.
I
What?
never heard that before. The
Oh,
first time I hear
yeah.
that.
Now a lot of these kids are autistic, and now they're saying when you're autistic, you're trans. I'm like, "You people are insane."
That's, yeah, indeed, they are insane. I'm
They are so
sorry, there is a bit of insanity in
Oh,
here.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
and this is where it becomes very hard to have a conversation because
Mhm.
we're not logical here. It's just emotional, and it's like,
That's right.
I'm a woman, you're gonna say I'm a woman, and you have a gun
Blech.
here, and
Yeah,
like
that's right.
you don't have a
That's right.
choice. They're
That's
threatening
right.
you if you
That's not how
don't.
women act, and I always tell them, "Sit down. Why don't you just watch women for a while? Why don't you
Yeah,
sit back, watch women?" That's what I did when I was young and I wanted to be a dude. I just watched guys. I watched how
yeah,
they walked. I took on those characteristics because it's what I
nice,
felt that a man needed to be. So, that's what transsexuals would do. It would mimic. I'm mimicking a man. This is a costume on some level. And that does and that in no way in shape or form is that transphobic or disrespectful to me. I know I'm very I know exactly what I'm doing here.
right,
I'm
yeah,
wearing a
that's.
costume.
Well, and that's fascinating that you can just bluntly say it without feeling that it alters you in any way.
Nope.
You are happy. You seem like a happy person.
I am.
Mad for very good reasons,
I get
but
so mad about the kids. I don't care about adults. You people are
yeah,
wing nuts. Go do your thing. But when you start punching women in the face, nope, I'm stepping in Come on,
Yeah.
I'll fight you. You wanna have a fight?
Yeah,
Let's
let's
make it
fight.
fair. Like,
Yeah.
don't sit there and punch women and kick them and call them names. Like, you're all pathetic. You're all like, you can only do it in a bunch too. You notice that? It's always like hundreds of these trans kids with buttons and flags and, it's like you're what are you doing? You're literally ruining everything we built. That
Yeah.
people hate us now. They hate us.
Well, it creates, as I said, it creates transphobia for sure.
Yep.
And I was watching a TV show in Quebec this week that really made me angry. But they were all saying that it was ridiculous to talk about danger when we talk about. I was saying that this drag queen is reading to children,
Right, right,
and
right.
it's to me, it's just not paying attention to what we are saying, because
That's
I
right.
think there is a danger
Sure.
underlying. It's not like, I don't think that the fact that my kid would be sitting with this drag queen is
Yeah,
dangerous, but
right.
it's the whole agenda behind, and
That's
they
right.
don't get the big picture.
Nope.
And where
Yeah,
I'm
they
worried,
do.
you
Yeah,
think
they
so?
do.
You
Don't even let them gaslight you like that. They know exactly what they're doing. The people who are in charge of this whole thing know exactly what they're doing.
right,
They're
those
very
in charge.
powerful. Yeah,
Right, those at
yeah.
the top, I'm sure
Ooh.
they do, but I'm talking about the whole
Oh,
people
like
buying it.
the people buying it, you're right. They're scared and also they wanna do the right thing. So,
Yeah,
right? We have to look at it kind of back step, and they're not smart as we are. They're not critical thinkers. These people are followers.
right,
Most people are followers. Most people will try to do the right thing.
right,
So, what they're trying to do is say, "Okay, well, you're right. Trans rights are human rights." Well, of course they are. So are women's rights, right? So are people of color rights. So are all of our rights are human rights, not just one group of people. That's this small, by the way. Trans community is tiny.
tiny.
And we're going to override everyone else's rights for our rights. Plus, I have rights. I don't understand this new mantra of trans
What
rights.
is what are the actual rights,
What do they
we're talking
want?
about
Right,
when
right.
I don't even know, like, I
They
feel
don't
like
know.
they
They
don't know
don't
either.
know. They're just making it up so that it makes it look as if they don't have anything, and I'm gonna tell you they have a lot more than they could ever even want or need. You can
Yeah, they
get
do.
everything paid for, you can walk the world now. People are like, "Well, you're trans." I can't even I would just wish they could go back 30 years. They would have, but they don't want to. They know what they're doing. It's just
Yeah.
really brainwashing people into this whole ideological space.
Yeah, and the more you repeat something, it just becomes
The truth.
the truth, and that's where
That's
I
right.
I feel like we are repeating a lot right now. At first, I was thinking, let's just not talk about it. Let's not
Right.
give them too much attention.
Right.
But now, honestly, I feel like I don't know how to behave. Someday I'm like, I'm gonna speak out and I'm gonna be the one who's telling them this is bullshit. And there are other days I'm thinking, maybe I'm giving them too much attention. Like, I
Right.
don't I don't
Right.
know. But at this point,
Right.
I feel like we need to put cards on the table and be
That's
very
right.
clear with what the problem is. And I
That's
think
right.
you explain it very clearly.
Thank
I'm
you.
glad that you are doing what you're doing. We can at least have a conversation. I
Thank you.
used to be a leftist. I used to, and I don't believe in left and right anymore. To me,
No,
this is also a very good way to control people,
that's right.
put them in boxes.
Yep.
But I feel more, I guess, conservative than I
Yep.
was before,
Me too.
because the left has gone wild and I don't
Nuts.
identify with, yeah, I don't know what's going on with the left, but hey, that's just not me.
Nope, me neither. And
Yeah.
conservative isn't a bad thing. It's not. I mean, of course, that gets a bad rap too. All that means is that for me, it means truth on some level. And it's
Yeah.
like, I back off, people. Like, I don't know why you need to make all this stuff up. Plus, trans women are women is a mantra. And a mantra creates like a cult like atmosphere. So
Right.
the fact that they're having people just out of nowhere like trans women are women, I'm like, do
Yeah.
you even understand what you're saying?
Yeah.
Right? It because all if you like you said, you repeat it over and over, it becomes truth.
Yeah, and that's super dangerous for those who I've been criticized a lot lately for saying that it was dangerous. I do believe it's dangerous.
It
So I
is.
think we've made it clear. I don't think that, I don't want to sound rude, but I don't think that those people who are
Mhm,
on the other side are going
mhm.
to pay any attention to the discussion we just had.
Nope, they won't.
Unfortunately, and
They'll call
that's
me a transphobe, they'll call you a transphobe for having me on,
yeah.
and good go right ahead. They can say whatever they want to say. We're making a breakthrough, and that's why they're fearful of us because
Yeah.
we're not standing down anymore. And that's why they're gonna come after us and
Absolutely.
why they come after me constantly. But it doesn't matter. I'm building an army, and I'm building
Yeah.
an army of people of truth. And that's
Yeah.
all I ever want. I don't want to lose my transsexual rights in this world, and they're taking my rights away. And so I have to fight back. They're taking the rights of women away. We are
Mhm.
eliminating women. So let me just say this before
Mhm.
we go. If it was such a fight for trans rights, why are we not saying what is a man?
And that's a very good question. Why?
That's right. So there you go. I can just tell you that if it's all about women, it's all about taking out women.
It does
It
feel like
is.
that a lot to me, and
Yep.
I think about my mom who's had, like, her fights as a woman in her life, and
That's
now
right.
I come here in a society I thought all the fights are won and we're good and
That's right.
whatever, and then I realize, "Oh, and it's all going away. What's going on?" And I'm not going to let that happen.
No, especially for the little girls and the little
Yeah,
tomboys and the little butches and the little ones who don't wanna conform to the world of whatever that means. We have to be here for those girls.
yeah.
I was a female athlete. I will not stand with that nonsense. This is ridiculous behavior, and it has nothing to do with trans rights.
What, just we've been wanting to wrap this up. There's so
Yeah.
much to
I
say,
know.
but I'd like
I
to, because
know.
you are in the States and it's a different
Yeah,
environment. I'd like
yeah,
to know, would you say that there is a conversation about this? How do you feel about that? Of course, you've been
mm,
outspoken, but do you feel like
mm.
you're standing alone, or do you feel like
No.
it's half and half?
It's
Or
happening. No, 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 no. More people are starting to stand up. I see it 100%. They come to me daily. On my YouTube channel. I'm doing tons of interviews with like-minded people, and I bring people from all over every spectrum, not just LGBT. I bring regular old women who have kids, women who've had their kids taken away from them by their husbands because they're transitioning them. I mean, insane stories like that. It's just
well,
crazy. So I'm actually bringing like other people. I'm not just the only one. So I bring other people to say, I'm like, okay, you don't want to believe me? Here, I'll bring
right?
another person on for you. So
Yeah,
that's what we can do here as people who are creating these sort of these spaces. We can
right.
bring people on to say, hey, it's not just me. There are other people. So the more we encourage people to speak up, they're starting to 100%. More and more trans people are starting to say, okay, wait a minute, this is completely insane, and this has nothing to do with being trans.
And would you say that most Americans are buying the woke
Yeah,
propaganda? Most
yeah.
Americans? Yeah,
For now, but I think that there's a light. I see a little break in the light, and I see because I see shows like the witch trials of J.K.
yeah,
Rowling. The
yeah,
Free Press just came out. People are starting to, create journalistic spaces that are not left and right, but more middle ground and
yeah,
having the converse. Because the only way you make change is by having conversation. That's it. That's it. It's the only way.
yeah,
And we've been shut down by those ideological people, and
yeah.
they shut us down by calling us right transphobe, turf, bigot, Nazi. I mean,
Alt-right.
genocide. Yeah, and that's the trans ideology shutting us down, just immediately blowing names at you so that
Yeah.
you know
You don't
that
even need to be addressed as a human being anymore.
that's
You're
right.
just like you're a thing.
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right. But people see it now, and I think the more
yeah.
me and you sort of have these conversations, I think people will see the light.
Well, thanks. I feel like you spend a lot of time talking about it, so
It's important.
it must be demanding though. So thanks for doing what you're doing.
No, I care about it. I care about our kids. I care about
Mhm.
your kids. I care about you as a woman. I also care about trans people. But
Yeah.
unless we learn to coexist in this world, we're not going to have anything.
Right, absolutely. Well,
Thank
I
you.
hope that a lot of people will listen to our discussion.
I
And
hope so.
thanks so much for your time. And I hope we'll talk again and we can compare what's happened. And we'll be,
Great.
oh, wow, we've done so much.
I know. Don't It'll happen.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
It'll
it will.
happen.
Have a good one.
Thanks, friend.
Bye.
Bye.